Welcome to the newest installment of the Untitled Film Nerd Project. My name is Philip, and joining me as always is Teacher.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about Artik. Before we get into it, spoiler warning now! If you want to avoid spoilers, skip ahead to the time code you see on the screen. Alright, so let's get into it.
So, what'd you think of this one?
I'm torn.
Uh-huh.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it so much that I wanted to see more of it. This movie sits at about 77 minutes long. Take away credits, Artik is only 68 minutes long. An hour and 8 minutes. But it also kind of worked with the length that it was. That's why I'm torn, because on one hand, it felt like it needed more build.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it felt like it had just enough build to tell the story it was trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a snapshot into the lives of these people. Nothing more, nothing less. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm teeter-tottering on it. If it was perfect the way it was, in a manner of speaking, or if it needed more substance, because I feel an argument could be made for both.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has a 3.6 rating on IMDb. And this is where the duality comes in, because I can see how people would rate it that, and why they would. But I can also see rating it much higher and being better than people give it credit for.
Yes.
I assume most of the low ratings are because of the plot feeling like it was on fast forward. But then again, maybe that was by design. Because as a standalone thing, it functions as is. But there's a possibility that it could have been better with more meat on the bones. But then again, it didn't need it to tell its through the looking glass type story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
Pretty much the same. Like, I really enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm.
It was very entertaining.
Definitely.
But there's still something missing.
Yeah, it feels like it, but at the same time.
Yeah, because it's most certainly... Like, I think for me, what I needed was more on Holton.
Okay. Right.
Just more to his character, more of something. He had a mystery about him,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't even... Didn't feel like there was a mystery because there's information being held back to be revealed later on. It was a mystery because we just weren't given anything. I'm okay with the other aspect of the serial killer family where we entered in on them and the pacing of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think for me, I could have used a little bit more on his character because I really liked his character.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
It's just I really wanted to know his character more.
Right.
But again, that could be entirely by design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it works.
And if that's the case, then I can respect that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but I'm sure we'll get into more during our breakdowns.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, some things that I did like. The acting. For a lower budget movie, good job. Speaking of actors, Chase Williamson was sexy as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was looking like a snack. I don't care.
100% agree.
And I'll go on record as saying this was the hottest I've ever seen him. Even surpassing John Dies at the End. Like, the dude was only 24 when he made that movie. And he's only 31 when this one was released. Like, he could easily be a leading man in Hollywood, in my opinion. Like, from a shallow standpoint, he has the looks. He can fucking act. But he chooses to do these lower budget horror movies. And that makes him even hotter, to be honest.
Yeah.
Also on actors, the main child actor, Gavin White, not bad. It wasn't the best, but he didn't have a lot to work with other than act like you have PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, there are a lot of adult actors that can't pull that off. So for what he had to do, I think he did decent. This is going to be a thing of contention with probably some of our listeners, but I really liked Jerry Angelo as Artik. I didn't realize that was his name until I looked it up. But Boy Adam tagging shit with the dude's name as some sort of comic book villain leaving his mark, I dug it. I liked the comic book aspect of it. It didn't go, full on serious like Shyamalan did with it, but I think Angelo was a unique leading man and that his delivery was so different and fit the character so well. And truth be told, I couldn't understand him all the time. But it worked for the character, I think. The wife of Flynn was bugging me. I knew her from something. She was the title character in the movie Darling, as well as Pod and Jugface. Yeah. And then Carlin, the same thing. I knew him, but couldn't put my finger on it. We know him from Beyond the Gates, which also had Chase in it. The director, I think, deserves a special mention. This was Tom Bocci's first feature-length film. And he wrote, directed, edited, and co-produced it. The dude had a vision.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm actually looking forward to what he puts out next. Aside from the acting, the practical effects were well done. Better than some movies with much larger budgets. And those are the things that stuck out to me that I liked. What about you?
Much of the same. Acting, number one thing. It's always a pleasure seeing Chase Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
And as you brought up, the Artik character. He very much reminded me of Billy Bob Thornton the very first time I saw him in Sling Blade.
Okay.
With, the speech pattern and all that. It was a very unique speech pattern.
Yeah, it was.
I really dug Artik's motivations. Not just comic books, but revering comic books as a form of religion.
Yeah, good call.
And the whole dynamic of him and the wife being so fucking batshit insane.
Yeah.
But they really worked well together.
Yeah.
I really liked the pacing. Pacing did really excellent job.
Agreed.
And I really liked how the end came about. With all the other children escaping and helping, and it kind of gave me kind of like a people under the stairs type vibe.
Okay.
And as you brought up, Boy Adam, he did really good. As you said, he didn't have much to work with, but I mean, his name is Boy Adam.
Right.
They weren't instilling much of a personality on the kid.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's everything I liked on that one.
Two things I want to touch on that you mentioned. I don't think we needed to see him headbutt the tree 47 times, but with the way it played out, it kind of made sense. So in the beginning, I'm like, what? Stop it. You made your point. And then the end, I kind of laughed when I saw Holton walking away with his like adolescent boy army. I was like, all right. I don't know what's going to happen now, but okay. And then one final thing I liked. I loved the reverse psychologizing from Holton to Artik when Holton was being held captive. Like, I've always wanted to see a movie where the captive like laughs in the face of the person that's torturing them. Like, just fucks with them back. Isn't like weepy and scared and crying. It's just like, do it, like bravado and badass. And you're like, I have nothing to lose. I just do whatever you're going to do. Fuck you. And I've wanted that for so long, and we got that. And it was great. I was a huge fan of the way Holton interacted with Artik while he was being tortured and held captive. I thought it was fucking great.
Absolutely agreed.
One more thing. I liked the opening credits.
Yes.
They were cool.
Yes.
They were cool. Like, I
completely agree.
I was hooked. I was like, okay, these are cool. The rest of the movie better be this cool, and it was. So, yeah. All right. Here's what I thought could have been better. I wasn't a fan of whatever camera they were using. It was way too grainy, but that was just me nitpicking. The biggest attraction for me was sound design / sound editing. Again, this is a movie that relied too much on the sounds making the scene intense instead of the scene itself being intense. And that's why I didn't like it. The scenes alone would have been much more intense had they just played out with ambient sound. I didn't need a screech noise every time Carlin is moving his hands in the restraints. Let me hear him struggle with the actual sound from the movement. The entire film did this, and I think it suffered because of it. Mostly because what was going on was more than enough to sell the intensity and dread of what was going on. The relationship between Boy Adam and Holton, that moved far too quickly. I think you could have spent that extra 20 minutes or so, if you added that on, setting up the relationship more, and be a bit more hesitant to trust someone due to the mental and psychological abuse and grooming that was being done to him. That part moved a little bit too fast. So where you wanted more exposition on Holton, I wanted more on the relationship between Holton and Adam. The AA stuff was a little odd. I get the purpose and how it backstoried Holton's character and then played in later when he was held captive. But the conversations with Holton and Carlin felt awkward. And that's not the fault of the actors necessarily. It was more the dialogue. But then again, an argument can be made that the boy wanted to trust someone nice and that the conversations at the AA meetings were meant to be out of place on purpose. Because as said earlier, this is one of those films that could be taken both ways. Just like I wish Chase Williamson could be. Haha. And it might sound like I'm being overly apologetic for this one, but I think there's something here. And what could be perceived as flaws might actually be purposeful storytelling, because it does work the way it's told. It's odd, and it's fucking like, what? but it worked. But if I had to choose a side, if I absolutely had to choose a side, I would say that it didn't quite live up to the potential it had. I enjoyed the film, and I was not bored for 1 second, but there was something really fucking cool here, and I think it could have been more. But that could have been budget, that could be the script, I'm not sure. Also, I learned something from this movie.
What's that?
As it pertains to Carlin, maybe, just maybe, mind your own fucking business.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, like, want to come in for dinner? I'm like, no, no, go back to your car, drive away.
Trust your spider senses.
Yeah. So what do you think could have been better?
You touched upon it partly. For me, one of the major things was the music. I liked the music, but it's just turn it down a little bit.
Right.
Just a little bit. It was just so loud, so screechy.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of being a little bit more subtle with it. And then the other thing that I didn't like too much at the beginning, to me it improved throughout, but some of the extremely abrasive, rough editing cuts.
Yeah.
Like there was very little flow on the transition. It would just be you're here and then all of a sudden you're here. And then the only other thing, as I brought up earlier, you know, I wanted a little bit more on Holton. And also with that, I also was expecting more from Holton from the climax. But it also makes sense why we didn't get more.
Well, this was more of Adam's redemption.
Yeah. This was more Adam's story.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, that's mostly, you touched on a lot of other stuff, but that's mostly all that bugged me. And that's also, you know, as you said, just kind of me nitpicking. So.
Right. All right. All that being said, would you recommend it?
Totally.
Right on.
And you?
No, but I would want to. I can't think of anyone else I know that would like this. Like 99% of the horror fans I know would hate this one. And I kind of get it. Like, it worked for me when maybe it shouldn't have. And I completely own up to that. Yeah, so I want to, but I don't think I could, is the summation of that. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that is about it.
Cool. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends or cool people who might dig the Vizcast. Please subscribe to the channel, including hitting that notification bell to stay up to date on the newest content. And there is a link in the description below for the Patreon that covers all of the creative endeavors, as well as access to bonus content. So please consider showing your support. And until next time, my name is Philip.
And I'm TJ.
And we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Bye.